Hey guys, it is Hart breaking down this 9-game NBA slate here on DraftKings, talking through some of my favorite early look core plays. I will have a price fix video out later today, so make sure to check that out. Hit that like button, and now let's get into the early look core plays. Fellas, I played Anthony Davis last night. 8% owned, floor game. Minutes limit. I mean, granted, he did play overtime, but the dude, why are you out there? If I don't know if you guys watched the game, but the dude is the most timid basketball player I've ever seen. You have two G Leaguers guarding you. Why are you not posting him up every play? You could tell the dude just didn't want to run. He was very nonchalant, lackadaisical. He, every time two times he got a rebound where he jumped up, caught it, and while he was falling, he tried to pass it and drop it off because he's so scared of landing on his feet that it's like one of those things where he's gonna even hurt himself even more just because he's so scared. And that's all he thinks about. It was so frustrating watching him play. That dude should have had 40 points on Jericho Sims and Isaiah Hartenstein. But of course, he gets outplayed by Isaiah Hartenstein. It's just frustrating stuff, rostering that dude. And I guarantee that in the next slate he'll be the same price, maybe a little bit more. He'll randomly be, 50% owned, and he'll go off 100. It's just so annoying. But moving on to this 9-game slate here, guys. We have Portland and Memphis. We got a lot of good games on the slate, so there's going to be a lot of interesting matchups, a lot of good matchups to target, so stay tuned for that. Stay tuned for my free Patreon link down below. And if you guys could hit that like button, would greatly appreciate it. So starting off with this Portland side here, it's kind of the same breakdown for Portland every time. They're kind of one of those teams where it's if you want to ride the hot streak with Dame, he's been scoring the ball great. Sometimes he is a little bit too scoring dependent. But at 10-6, I think he's a solid, spin up play here. Great matchup versus Memphis. So I don't mind him. Nurkic, what to do with Nurkic? The minutes have not been great. He's ran into foul trouble. They just haven't closed with him recently because he's been playing bad. But we know he's huge upside if he does get the minutes, close to 30. So love the price tag. Solid matchup here. Especially against Brandon Clark or Xavier Tillman defense. Nurkic does look good. It's just the minutes are the huge question mark there. If you trust him, if you want to get risky, I think he makes for very, very solid GPP play. But at the same time, he can only go out there, play 15, 25 minutes, and really screw you with that price tag. The rest of the team, more of secondary options like Grant, Simons, if you follow them, sure, they're fine. I do have a good amount of interest in Josh Hart. He should be good to go. There are those games where he'll go out there and really not do anything at all. He's not going to shoot the ball a ton, but he has, pretty solid upside when it comes to just getting the points, rebounds, and assists. So I do like him there at 5,100 as a decent value play. And then you can take a shot on Eubanks if you think Nurkic is going to do bad. But they've kind of been limiting him. They've been splitting up the minutes with Trenton Wofford. So not a lot of interest in Portland right now. For the Memphis side, John Morant looks great at 10-4. I think he looks even better if Desmond Bane's out. Now, if Desmond Bane is in, they're just more secondary plays like Morant. That price is a solid spin up play. Bane does have upside at that price. Jaren Jackson Jr. would be more of the secondary play. I don't know if I'd have any interest in him. Brandon Clark's still decent at that price tag. Minutes are not there just because sometimes he gets in foul trouble, but he looked decent. Steven Adams is still out. Brooks is there. Tyus Jones is there. So no real standout plays. Xavier Tillman could be an okay value play. But yeah, it really just depends on Bane. If he's in, everyone's kind of more secondary plays. If he's out, love Ja a good amount. Jaren Jackson Jr. does have a ceiling. Brooks would be more viable. I think Tyus Jones would be decently viable off the bench. He should play decent minutes. You could definitely take a shot on him. But yeah, not a lot of interest in Memphis unless the injury news kind of comes out for that. Moving on to Orlando and Philly. For the Orlando side, they're all decently priced. They did just beat Philadelphia the other day. But I will warn you guys, it is a good amount of blowout risk here. I think the spread's 8.5. The Magic were down 21 points in the game the other day. Somehow came back and somehow won. I don't know if they can do it 2 days in a row or two games in a row. If you believe that, then sure, I think you guys could target some people. But there is a good amount of blowout risk. And for that reason, just more secondary options for me. If you're to get to, all these guys did play huge minutes as well because they were playing very good. So they just kind of kept them in the game. Before that, they were kind of emptying their bench a little bit more with guys like Mo Wagner, Suggs, even Harris a little bit, Bol a tad. So Right now, no real standouts. If I had to like choose people, Cole Anthony's a decent GPP option. Same thing with Fultz. Wendell is questionable. I guess that is the big news. If he's out, it'd probably open up, I would assume, Mo Bamba starting. He'd be a decent value play, but obviously there's huge foul trouble risk. Maybe a few more minutes for Bowl. It'd be interesting to see what they do with that center spot. But yeah, there's a lot of blowout risk here. So right now, not a lot of interest for me. Philadelphia side, it's really just Harden and Embiid for me. Even in a blowout, they should still be able to get there because if it's a blowout, 99% of the time it's going to be coming from Embiid and Harden. Harden has kind of been the worst of the two in terms of like fantasy output recently. He just hasn't been great at rebounding or getting assists, as you can see here in the past like 4 or 5 games. It's been like pretty much every other game he's been doing okay, and then he does bad, and then he does okay. So Harden, I think he'd be my riskier target, but I think my favorite one, Embiid's more steady. He's going to get the minutes. He's going to get the shot attempts. The rebounds have been there, assists, blocks, all that stuff's been there. It just depends if he's going to score like 25 or if he's going to score like 45 real life points. So 2 of my favorite plays there in Embiid and Harden. Washington side, Porzingis coming off a huge game. It's funny because I played him and, he was great, but he had huge foul trouble. And he had 13 points in the first quarter. I had his over 20 on Prize Picks. 17. How do you have 13 points in the first quarter, score 4 more points the rest of the game? I mean, foul trouble did play a huge part. He only played 30 minutes, but really? But yeah, Porzingis, I think he makes for like a solid contrarian spin up in that range. Obviously, gets a fantastic matchup here. Gafford is questionable. If Gafford is out, I like Porzingis way more just because of the upside there with rebounds. But if he's in, Porzingis is just more of an okay play, more of a secondary option. Kuzma at that price tag, don't think you need to do it. Beal, you can take a shot on him. Had a solid game there versus San Antonio, but we know with Beal, he's become more of a playmaker. He's not too aggressive when the whole team's around there, so he's just kind of there. Denny, if you want to ride the hot streak with him, sure you can, but his price is coming up, so he just looks more of an okay play. Gafford, you could take a shot on him. So not a lot of real standout plays right now for me on this Wizards side. Moving on to Detroit. Bogdan, Ivy, I think they both look solid. Sadiq Bey does have some upside. I mean, all these guys should see around like 28 to 35 minutes. The safest guy is going to be Bogdan. So, I mean, they're all kind of there. Don't mind the price tags. Duran's price tag's decent. He should be in line for mid-20s, maybe even closer to 30 minutes. So, a little bit of interest. If Burke starts, you can definitely take a shot on him once again. He's been solid. So, yeah, a little bit of interest. I do like Hamidou Diallo. He did miss that last game because of illness. He should be probable. Should be good to go for this Wizards game. As I mentioned, he's decently cheap. He's super productive when he's out there. Obviously, that's one of those things you can't really rely on him being that productive, but it's kind of what he's been all season since he's gotten the minutes the past month and a half. So I do like him a good amount there as a decent value play at 4,200. So I'm going to throw him in there for right now, and that's really it. Moving on to Brooklyn and Boston. Now we get into like a juicier game. Obviously, a tougher matchup here for the Celtics, for the Brooklyn side. There is some blowout risk. I think the spread's like 8.5 once again. But if you're going to get to a piece, obviously it should be Kyrie Irving. He's been fantastic in the past week and a half. Since they kind of start off slow without KD, he's really picked it up. So he looks like a great spin-up option. A little bit of a tougher matchup, so maybe it keeps his ownership down, but I do like him a good amount. Claxton, a little bit of interest in him. Of course, I played his PRA on Prize Picks against the Lakers. Fantastic, easy matchup there for him against Thomas Bryant defense, and he has his worst game in the past, week and a half. So that's just frustrating. But yeah, I think he looks decent at 8K. Don't love the price tag or the matchup, but he's there. Royce O'Neal, Seth, Joe Harris, don't mind him if I was to get to one. Maybe it's taking a shot on Joe Harris as like a salary relief value play, but right now it's only going to be Kyrie. I will mention De'Aaron Sharp. He did do decent in the last game versus the Lakers. I don't know if I trust it. He's pretty foul prone. So right now it's really just Kyrie for me on the Brooklyn side. On the Boston side, it's really just going to be Tatum or Brown. Marcus Smart is still out, so Brogdon is going to see like mid-30s minutes. So I guess he's still viable as well there at 6,500. I don't mind him. Maybe my favorite play there if he's going to see those mid-30 minutes. That's about it. If Robert Williams is in, he looks solid. If he's out, just a little bit more of a minutes bump for a guy like Al Horford. He'll dust off Luke Kennett and, Blake Griffin maybe a few minutes. So right now it's just going to be probably, I will mention Grant Williams. He'll get the minutes. I guess he's an okay value play there at 4,000 as well. So I guess Grant Williams, Al Horford a little bit, mostly Malcolm Brogdon as kind of the key pieces I'm looking at in that Boston game. Golden State, Minnesota. Here's a great game environment to attack. So really, really like this for obvious reasons. Should be very high scoring, not a lot of defense. This Warriors play at the fastest pace in the league. Minnesota's a pretty solid pace too as well. So Steph looks fantastic here at 10-3, coming off a huge game there. I like riding the hot streak with Steph. I mean, 3 straight games of 30 or more points. Klay Thompson, 6,900 prices coming up, but he's solid as well. Don't mind both of them. Poole's there. Green, he's been decent as well. So I think the only real kind of standout plays to me are going to be Steph and Andrew Wiggins. I mean, Wiggins has been very up and down since coming back from that injury, so I don't think a lot of people are going to get to him. We know his decent upside, especially as we can't even talk. As we saw in that Boston game there, 40 minutes, 40 fantasy points. He's usually like a 32 to like 40 fantasy point kind of guy, per day. Klay has been stepping it up more recently, so maybe it's a little bit more of a little bit of a hit to a guy like Andrew Wiggins, but him and Steph standing out as the best 2 plays for me. I'm going to throw in Steph for right now. Going to the Minnesota side, it's really just going to be kind of the top 3 for me. Anthony Edwards, obviously 9-8 now. He's been great. Like, you can't really complain about what he's been doing. I just don't know if I love the price tag. Obviously, it's a great matchup. A little bit. I mean, the game should be close. Not a ton of blowout risk, but you never know with this stuff. D'Lo looks solid, 7-1. He does have some upside. Gobert's, decent price as well. It's just the Warriors play super fast. They're pretty small. Maybe it's a game where they limit Gobert and they go to a guy like Naz Reid. So you could definitely take that shot there. Kyle Anderson looks decent as well, 5-6. He's some upside. McDaniels is there. But right now, it's really just going to be kind of the top 3 for me if you do trust the minutes with Gobert. OKC Houston, another fantastic matchup to target. SGA looks fantastic here, 10-2. I like Goody a good amount at 7-7. And then I do like Jalen Williams a good amount here at 5-3. We know he's solid upside. He's kind of the third and only player who's going to get consistent minutes besides Giddey and O'Shea. So top 3 look fantastic. The rest of the team, they're just kind of there. Williams offers a decent upside and ceiling there. That's about it. Really no need to talk about the rest of the team. Houston, Sengun going to lead this team with the 2 guards still out. We'll probably get him, Martin, Smith, and Gordon starting. And maybe Eason. We'll have to keep an eye out on that. But even with Sengun back, I still have a good amount of interest in Jabari Smith. We saw him have very solid upside there. Could not shoot the ball, 2 of 12, but still got 35 fantasy points. He's decent. 3 blocks, 2 steals. Obviously, a little bit of a stealing game there from him, but I still think he's decently cheap at 5,600. Same thing with Tari Eason. He should see a good amount of minutes off the bench. He's been super productive. I do like him there at 5-4. Eric Gordon, I'm sure he'll be popular. He had a solid game there. I just can't trust him. He's too scoring dependent for me. I just don't like rostering him. And then moving on to the last few games here, we got Kings versus San Antonio. Kings side, Sabonis has been awful. He's just been god-awful the past 5 games. I played him multiple times, so it's really screwed me. But we know he has 50, 60-plus upside. It's just he hasn't hit it. But we do get a great spot here versus Spurs. He just threw up 53 against them the other day. So I do like him. His assists have been down. His rebounds have been down a little bit. His scoring has been down. So I do think he's going to kind of step it up here. They really need him. They've been on a little bit of a skid here. So I do like him. I do like Fox. I think I prefer Fox. He's just been a little bit more aggressive and better recently. But they both have huge upside. I do think this team has a lot of interesting tournament option plays. Like Kevin Huerter, he's been playing terrible. Shot the ball horrendous. Got benched in that Minnesota game. He's a decent tournament option. Same thing with Malik Monk. 32 minutes, 32 and a half fantasy points. So we know he's that upside. It's just, can he hit his shots? That's really it for me. It's kind of just those 3/4 guys. Moving on to the Spurs side. Another team just hate playing. Trey Jones is kind of interesting, though. He is a little bit cheap here. Just hasn't been shooting the ball a ton or scoring the ball well. We know he'll get the assists and rebounds. It's just, can he score the ball? Portal, once again, it's just kind of the same thing. If you can stay out of foul trouble, he has huge upside. But if he gets in foul trouble, they'll just run with a hot hand, which has been Zach Collins. But I think I still prefer Portal. Sohan has been there. He's been decent. Kate, Bates Diop was a value play. He's been, getting a good amount of minutes the past few games. Now at that price tag, he's just kind of there. So San Antonio's just never really any interest in them. Moving on to Toronto in Utah, another great game to target. Pascal looks great. Siakam looks great. Excuse me, Pascal. Fellas, I'm still trying to wake up. I apologize, but Siakam looks great. Van Fleet looks great. Scotty just more of he's just there. He has upside. He's been doing better recently. I just still prefer getting to Siakam and Van Fleet just because they're going to be more aggressive. Gary Trent's price is coming down a little bit. Intrigues me a tag, but he's still pretty score independent. Precious finally coming up to a reasonable price. He's been very, very solid and is out there. Now at this price, hopefully his ownership goes down a bit. So, you can take a shot on him, or he's just, not a lot of people will play him. But I think really the top three standout plays for me are going to be Siakam, his price tag, Van Fleet, and then Boucher. He's been getting solid minutes. He's productive when he's out there. So I do like taking him as kind of like a pivot play off of, usually pretty chalky Precious and pretty chalky like Van Fleet, Scotty, or Siakam. Moving on to Utah, it's pretty much the Laurie and Clarkson show. So I'd say you get to one of those two if you want to take a piece from the Utah side. They do stand out. Their price tags have come down a good amount. Toronto used to be a team you didn't want to target because they had good defense. Now they played like no defense at all. So it should be a pretty high scoring game here at Utah. And then the rest of the team, just kind of there. I do worry that, since the Raptors are a smaller team, it could be a little bit of downside there for Kessler and his minutes. Kelly Olynyk is back. He saw 15 minutes. I'm assuming he'll see around 15 to 20. Obviously, that eats into the upside of a Kessler. Vanderbilt, should see about 20-ish minutes. Sexton 4-4. I think he'd be my favorite value play. He's been aggressive when he's out there, but they just have a ton of people in their rotation right now. So if you're not getting to like the top two guys, I think it's just super, super risky, and there's really no need to get to the rest of the team. Moving on to Atlanta and Phoenix. Trae Young is questionable, but he should be good to go. I like the matchup here. He's been good recently, so I do like Trae Young. 9-7. DeJounte, his price came back up once again, so he's just kind of there. Obviously, he had a huge game without Trae Young, but now that Trae Young's back, DeJounte's priced up. It's just more okay. Rest of the team, I will mention Hunter. He's kind of cheap there at 4,900. He's just playing a ton of minutes. He's been more aggressive recently. Gets rebounds, assists, some steals, blocks. So I like Hunter a good amount as like a cheaper value play. And then that's really it for me. I will mention Capella. He has double-double upside. And then moving on to Phoenix. Chris Paul, solid price tag, 8,300. He's been good recently. Ayton, price really hasn't moved. I do like the upside here with Ayton. We know he'll usually get the minutes. He'll get the shot attempts. Really just comes down to if he gets that double-double and he can hit his shots, then he has like 50, 60 plus upside. I do like the matchup here versus Capella. Bridges, solid game there, scoring the ball. Cam Johnson, I still think he's viable. He's scoring independence, but he does have solid upside. So good amount of interest in Phoenix here. I think the standout to me would probably be Cam Johnson as of right now, but I have a good amount of interest in DeAndre Jordan and Chris Paul. So that's going to do it for the breakdown. These are kind of the early little core plays for me: Brogdon, Cam, Steph, and Diallo. And that's really going to do it for me. So if you guys want to stay tuned later today on my free Patreon or on my Twitter, once we get closer to lock, I'll release my actual core plays depending on what news we get. And yeah, so if you guys like the video, hit that like button. I will start doing it once again where I fill out the lineup, just doing an early look lineup build and going from there. But yeah, if you guys like the video, hit that like button. Stay tuned for my price pick video, which should be out later today. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.